Hold on, I had to take off the earphones. I don't know if you all can hear, so I don't even want to risk it as I wait. So I thought I would come on as I wait, trying to determine if I should just wait here or if I should go ahead and get in a different position and just go to another location. So while I wait, okay, I may end up walking off, so y'all may hear me walking in a minute if I decide it's too noisy, and if I decide it'll be better if I maybe go to a different location. Now, I think the title says Tactics Exposed. So what I'm going to tell you, as somebody that's a targeted individual, you all know that I like to give true to life, actual events, and as best I can, I like to give play by play what it looks like, because if not, it's just like a bunch of gibberish. It's just a bunch of talk and, sayings. So what makes it insidious and what makes it challenging, you guys hear me say, this is coercion. It is a covert abuse. But what makes it insidious is the mythology behind it, the psychology behind it, the military government kind of tactics behind it that makes it insidious. And when it is on a macro scale, okay, the fact that they are networking with the local businesses, and if they see you in a location, they may network with somebody at a location that's in your proximity. So here are some examples of what this looks like in day-to-day life. Let's say you go to the mall, right? Let's say you go to the mall, maybe just to shake up the energy, walk around, check out some things that you like, sniff on some perfumes, sit down, relax, find a spot, because see, once you become a targeted individual, you really start to get particular. You start to try to find as much solitude as you can. You're not always successful, but you try to get into a location where it's like, okay, ain't nobody right here. You start maybe trying to do things more in the open. You scan and you sit down. Okay, so you start to get all of these tactics. So you go to the mall. You're walking around. Okay? Now, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry because I'm walking. I was trying to decide if I should just wait in front of my son's apartment complex or if I should move to a different location. So I decided I think I should move to a different location. So you're going to hear the noise. So I apologize, pardon me, for the gang stalker's noise. Okay? Now, as I was saying, let's say I'm going to give the examples. You go to the mall. The target individual, they go to the mall. They've become very, very diligent with trying to be strategic with either finding locations when they're ready to sit and relax, finding locations that's maybe people aren't there, or kind of in spots that makes it look obvious if some weird things happen. Now, check it out. Here's the tactics. So let's say that the target individual does that. They walk around, they sniff on stuff, blase. They notice a few odd behaviors, but they just basically keep it pushing, okay? They sit on a chair, go, okay, don't do nothing. Just keep it pushing, taking notes, looking at people's clothes, descriptions, body languages, pattern recognition, okay? And what these organizations would do when they're networking with these companies, okay? You've been sighted the entire time. There are several people in several different spots because of the fact they're already tracking you. So you've been spotted in several different places in that mall, and they network with one another as such. Now, the targeted individual picks this up a long time ago. So let's say the person sat down and they were just relaxing. Target individual decided, so I'm going to sit down. I'm going to listen to some music. I ain't bothering nobody. I'm going to put my phone down so that nobody can do no fake report of us stalking them. And I'm just, but I'm going to, periodically scan around me so I can catch patterns. Okay. So the targeted person, they look up and discover, let's say the business right in front of them. Okay. Let's say it's a nail shop. Business right in front of them. They notice that first, one of the ladies that might either be the owner or work there or, something, they come out and they don't stand right in front of her. They kind of go down like from her, but the targeted population person catches that person kind of staring at them. Okay. She don't do anything. The targeted person don't, because again, you have to be very delicate with this kind of stuff. So she just takes note, okay, and then goes right back to what they're doing. Now, let's say over maybe within a 10-minute time frame, there's someone else that, maybe she didn't catch the person coming out that same shop. Maybe her head was down when they came out, because they could have been an employee of the nail shop themselves or someone who was, going there. And let's say they notice, like they still don't pay no attention, no big deal. They notice that the person they're walking in circles like they're doing laps around the bench that they sitting on. Okay, like it's laps. People do laps inside of these malls, but it's not that way. Okay, you don't do circles around somebody on their bench. Anybody with any kind of fucking common sense, or what I'm saying, I wouldn't just circle somebody sitting on a bench, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Shit. Like, even if I was trying to exercise and, on a break or just, what I'm saying, I would have some kind of decency. Like, okay, it's a whole lot of mall right here. There's a whole lot of space. It's kind of weird to be sitting here circling around that person like I'm playing Ring Around the fucking Rosie. Okay? Those things are strategic. Simultaneously, there was another person, African American, that kept lingering about as well. Targeted individual notice it. They don't do anything. They just sit and take note because they're going to pick up the pattern. They watch them watching them and how they linger. Then the targeted population, at some point, because it's like, just like a kid, if a kid is pointing their finger and you're like at your face, right? When we were little, even though it ain't doing shit, they ain't doing shit, nigga, they ain't doing shit. But it's annoying, right? Pointing their finger in your face. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. They're not touching you and they're not hurting you, but it's annoying as fuck, right? And no grown individuals, no adults that's got proper training. They know better. Those are social skills. Okay? It's social skills. You don't sit there and circle around in front of somebody and then don't want them to suspect and think that you're possibly stalking them, even if you're not. That very circular behavior over and over again in this context is peculiar. Okay. So the targeted population then says, all right, I'm going to let it go on for however long it's going to go on, and I'm going to make the call. But at that same time, she noticed that African-American guy started creeping past because he may have picked up the fact that that's what she was doing. So he creeps past and then go gets an old lady in a wheelchair. Okay? Whether that is the mama, the sister, or whoever. and walks her to a spot diangled from the targeted person, okay? And then he walks off, leaving her there, right? Sitting there. She ain't doing nothing. She's just sitting diagonal, sitting there. He goes to the right, okay? Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. I got to cross the street. We've got all of the network activated up in this motherfucker. So give me 1 second. It's activated, bitch. They activated. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. Well, I didn't think I was that powerful. I kind of thought I was a regular Joe Schmo. But anywho, they activated as hell, nigga. I'm trying to cross the street. Because, see, this ain't about me recording them right now. That's not this video. I'm not feeding them. What I'm doing right now is giving y'all the tactics. Huh? I'm not feeding them. They're not going to get no street theater from me. So they can rev and they can do everything they need to do. Do it till they satisfied. Okay? Ain't about them right now. It's about me teaching about the tactics. Because remember, I said they're going to either want to drive the target crazy or make them look like they are. Remember, I told you that. Okay? So it's kind of like in this case scenario, this is what happens. So security may wait a while, okay? They can see everything, especially in a mall. So they'll listen to what you said, they'll take the descriptions, and then they're not gonna come out right away. They're gonna look on camera and see what you're talking about, okay? Because they can see it. They have an angle everywhere through the mall, okay? So they'll know if you lied, okay? Now, but this is how they'll try to utilize something like this, the tactic that they will try to use with that. The person, if they did work at this nail shop, the person will be like, oh, no, I work right over here. I don't know that person. I work right here. And I was just on a break. I work at this nail shop right here. I was just on a break. I was trying to get a little bit of exercise right here, right in front of, the nail shop. I work here. I was just on a break and I was on the phone and I was trying to, I didn't mean any harm. So something like that, then the purpose of doing that is so that it can come off like that targeted individual, yet again, like they are grandiose and paranoid. Because unsuspecting minds and people with no depth and, all of that is going to be like, oh, okay. Okay. They're not going to take into full context like, okay, dude, but we see you circling around her bench like 20 times. So could you blame her for thinking that? Because good grief, was there not? You could have stretched it out. Maybe she wouldn't have felt like you were just there just trying to disrupt her. Okay? So the security person may then, because they can't get into whether or not it's true, if they were stalking or not. They'll just say, they'll ask the person, okay, well, you know what, she feels uncomfortable, or do you mind either, stretching it out, or because, she feels uncomfortable. So they'll ask them that. Then security may attempt, may attempt to go after the other guy. So they go looking for the second person. Meanwhile, don't forget, I told y'all about the lady in the like the roller seat, wheelchair, whatever it is. I think it was a roller seat, not a wheelchair. Okay, that he brought over diagonal to feminine to sit there. So then that woman sits there and watch feminine the entire time. After the security guard addresses the first guy and then goes looking for the second description guy, she sits there. Meanwhile, while she's sitting there, there are others that are coming around the population repeatedly, or they're trying to stay a distance, but enough for her to see, for her to see them. So she'll look back and see like maybe somebody that lives in the complex where her son is, them and a kid staring at her. She catches it. All this happened at the same time. But that is the pattern recognition. That's the development that she gains. Okay? She caught it all. Then, once she decides to get up, the old lady, okay, 'cause she sat there the entire time. The old lady, as soon as, and hear me out, as soon as the feminine or the target individual gets up, they got up. As soon as they got up and walked on about their business. Kawinky-dink. Okay? So he knew that he was going to have to try to get out of Dodge because he heard feminine what she was doing. So he tried to go get out of Dodge real quick and left her to the post. Okay? Boom. Then the next thing is, so the black dude tried to get out of Dodge, left the old lady to the post. Feminine got up to leave, then the old lady left. Feminine then decides to do what she was going to be doing anyway, because she was going to do what she was going to do. She was there to sit and relax for a minute, listen to some sounds, and then to go do some of her favorite things to do, which was she liked perfume. Okay? She likes clothes, perfumes, and smelling, and And so she decides she's already scanning people. She didn't call folks. She didn't already mark them. But, then, bitch, she decided to go to Bath and Body Works. Which is essentially really not even too far from where she was originally sitting. Okay, she had already scanned and saw several groups and several people, some in which live in the complex where her son is. She recognized them and a kid. Okay. And she saw there was several groups of like youngsters. She caught that with each place, like teeny boppers or people that are possibly like 18, 19, 20, range. She caught all of it. She goes to Bath and Body Works, right? And she noticed possibly 3 different people. 2 dudes and a chick. The chick with the braids, as the targeted population, was talking to one of the employees of Bath and Body Works, Parkdale Mall, Beaumont, Texas. Okay. The worker came up to her, was like, so feminine was asking for help. She was looking for a certain fragrance and a tester and so forth. As the employee was talking to her and offering her, like a little basket thingy, this is when the other the chick with the braids, feminine recognized her. This is when she came. It's like, could I have one of those, like, She was like, yeah, like it ain't no other place in there, bitch, for you to get your goddamn basket. Obvious. They so obvious. But they know they're obvious. They know feminine ain't no joke. And they know she ain't stupid. They know it by now. That's why they swarming. Okay? So it was kind of like to see how I would respond. Because see, I've caught on to what they're doing. And I didn't do nothing. I was still pleasant to the employee. I was like, oh, okay, thank you, my dear. And I kept doing what I was going to do. And as I left, or let's say the targeted person, as it applies to them out there, I'm giving y'all life applicable examples because this is the real shit of being targeted and what it looks like. Okay? So, now, let's say, well, as I was walking out, I saw the other people that had followed me from another location. It was the two dudes. And I smiled because I was going to go to my next shit anyway. And I said, I don't know if I said it out loud or not. I could have. I was like, one, catch your ass. If I catch your ass coming up in some other motherfucker, I'm finishing the call report on your ass as well. And smiled and kept going. Now, then feminine goes to, oh, is it called Ulta? Ulta, which is another one of her favorite spots. Okay? Ulta. To look at the makeup. You know, she's trying to figure some stuff out. She's changing up some shit. So she wanted to look at the makeup, the skincare, the perfumes, and she tried on everything as usual. She don't care that she's got on 1,000 smells. And well, now this is where they bring in the youngsters. This is where feminine catches like these 2 to 3 super duper youngsters, possibly ranging 18 to 20. Okay, that walks right across of her, like they're lingering. She catches these people lingering. She catches them staring at her, acting like they're shopping. And then as she continues to do as she do, then they make their way to basically just cross her energy, like to, you know, they could have went any other way, but they make it a point to walk in front of her, because again, remember, this is supposed to bug her. And they'll go, oh, excuse me. Feminine don't care. She go, and then she keeps going, right? Why is this important in terms of teaching about targeted population? Why is this important? Why does this matter? Me laying out all of that? Because people need to know. Too many individuals are looking for something that is obvious. They're looking for something that is easily detectable, and this is why they're failing. This is why they're failing. The idea of doing these things is to make it appear to be natural occurrences, make it appear to be happenstance, so that they can perpetuate that it's the targeted individual that is perhaps a little stressed out, a little paranoid. That's the point. Okay? When you're talking about a macro organized criminal activity, there's going to be sophistication. It is not going to be like some dum-dum, some retard rando trash bag with nothing to do. Okay? It's going to be sophisticated. And they will tap into, like I said, these people get the networks. They will network with these individuals in these various different places as they get the communication. that the target is in a certain spot. And it works in some cases because sometimes feminines or the target hasn't caught and all of that, and there's faces that they don't recognize. So they kind of hope that, okay, so they don't know that they got ties at the nail shop in the mall, that somebody up in the mall is a part of it, or somebody up in the nail shop within the mall. Like, they don't know that. And if they try to say something, we can then use that to make it seem like, yeah, they're tripping. But in this case, because of how it happened, and because of the fact that I basically sat there, I didn't immediately do anything. I wanted it to play out long enough to where it looks peculiar. Okay? And the way that I handled that, I said, this person is possibly, see the language? See, that's what I'm talking about. I communicated in a calm and intelligent manner. And I said, this is so and so and so and so. I am a targeted individual. I spoke with the head of security some time ago, and they instructed me, should I experience something where I suspect I am being followed, to contact you guys. The individual that I see is I don't know. Maybe they're exercising. Maybe they're on their phone. I'm like, but he's conducting in very peculiar behavior. I'm sitting on the bench, and I have waited for some time just to be fair, and he continues to circle around me. And so it's a possibility that he is one of the stalkers. You see how I did that? Because, for reasons like this, for situations like this, because when they're then approached, then it's going to be, no, I don't even know that person. I work right here. I was just exercising. Now, I also want to share something else separate from that, the whole gang stalking aspect. Remember, I shared a video with you all some time ago, I think, sharing clips of the things that's going on around my son's unit. I've told the stories about how they have repetitively been putting garbage, on his patio near it, in his front door, how some of those residents I've already caught several times stalking us, the people, that's above him, constantly being disrupted, no matter how many times reported. I shared some of that with you all. I shared also a picture of, I don't know what that thing is in the ground. It has like a white top on it. It looks like it's like the sewer system, the drainage, plumbing, I don't know. But I noticed like the top of it off one day as I was just walking. And I was like, what is that? And I decided to take a picture and record it, because I'm like, everything else I looked around, theirs wasn't unscrewed and off. So why was his? That same week that I noticed that, we had gotten emails about Building 6 water being shut down. Okay, between certain hours or whatever. Okay, following that, that's when I noticed that thing in by my son's apartment, the white thing unscrewed in the ground. And I looked at it like, what the hell? Now, I never, listen to me, In that particular situation, I didn't complain because that was not something that I can clearly say. So I just noted it. Okay, this was unscrewed and open. I recorded it and then noticed that there was no other ones like that at the time. So I didn't report that. I didn't feel like that was something that I needed to report at that time just yet, because I was like, just see what happens. You got what you need and just see what happens. So today, mind you, earlier this morning, I did a live here and I put location. Every blue moon, I'll put like a location, but I'm not using location for location. I use location for catchphrases. So I was typing in, I was like, okay, what I want is just to be like, just to say crazy, you know. As soon as I typed in crazy, the first thing that had popped up was something connected to Dallas, Texas. So I just selected it, but that wasn't the intention. It was, I wanted to see like crazy deal, you know, blase, blase. And I went live early this morning. Okay. Had the discussion. Within maybe 15 minutes, approximately 15 minutes upon ending that live, this is when I hear like equipment truck, a major equipment truck. And I was like getting myself together or trying to get my capacity together and moving some stuff around. And I heard it. So I'm nosy because it was near his unit. So I wanted to see what it was. After having gone through the things that we have gone through, yes, you can say I'm hyper vigilant about the activity, because now I understand all of this has been all a setup and being exploited. Okay? So I just went to look. And that's when I noticed the two maintenance guys, you know, trying to situate around the area and put down the whatever that is, the thingy bobs to anchor. And I just stood there for a hot minute. The car starts swarming as usual. Okay, because they're shocked. And I believe, here's what I think. I believe that they were on that live, or they saw that video, or someone in their group did and said, oh, they might have gone to Dallas. I mean, it's a 2-hour ride. They did say they have to sneak and strategically do things because they know we're watching. So they might have snuck off, you know, for maybe, you know, for whatever reason to Dallas. So let's go and try to damage control. Let's go and try to clean it up while they're not here. And then maybe we can get away with making it seem like she was crazy and paranoid about that as well. Or, you know, to make her think it. Okay, to make her think it, because if she, as she returns, that's no longer there or whatever, you know. Just trying to either remedy something or trying to further do damage, one of the two, while they think I'm in Dallas. Because why 10, 15 minutes? Now, it wasn't even a full 15 that I got off the live that I hear that truck. Pattern recognition. You all out there have to know that these are the things, because you're not going to just catch it. You're not going to be suspecting that landscapers, maintenance, apartment complexes, there's some things you're just not going to suspect naturally, because these are all functions that's normal and plausible. I believe, now this, I can be wrong, I believe that someone got a message from law or a higher authority and was given and shown some kind of proof. And that as it pertains to Delta Manor and their involvement or the connections or the individuals that's there in their involvement, pulling out or calling off, or maybe some of the owners, regional directors, or some, maybe they didn't know. Because not always is everybody involved. Sometimes it's just their employees, okay, that they've delegated everything to, okay? Now, I believe that a discussion was had. I believe that someone could have possibly gotten reprimanded, nothing major, but maybe on a small time level. And here's the next pattern I'm going to explain. So the targeted individual, they then begin to feel the need to do a lot of correspondence because of the fact that when it comes to conversations, audible, verbal conversations, these things get manipulated and contorted. So for that reason, they're like, okay, I need to send emails, okay, to submit requests, to get clarifying questions about things that I'm needing to know, so that it can't be like, no, well, she misunderstood, and no, we didn't say that, and well, so that it's, no, we're reading the paper, okay? And so the targeted person will pick up the pattern if that person's typical ways of communicating with them alters, okay? So evading questions, bypassing, delaying the email response, or when calling to follow up because you put the request in, the AC is out, you put the request in on the app as well as the email and still nothing, and so calling just to confirm. And, yeah, this is the stuff the targeted individual goes through regularly. Now, simultaneously, they experience people hanging out of their balconies, their patios, peeping out their windows, typing and texting while looking at them. They come back and experience people sitting in a white mini SUV directly in front of the unit, because that's the next thing that happened. White chick, Mexican chick, just sitting there, and it was for a pretty decent amount of time. Didn't do anything about that, though. See, here's where I'm going. We get to the point where we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to bait. They're trying to get street theater. They're trying to get us, catch us, take so-called recording these people, or so-called taking pictures of these people, the very way in which they're doing to us. But they're trying to bait us to do that because they know they look obvious. Bitch, you're sitting here, you ain't waiting, you typing and shit, and it's a whole, so you doing this for a little while, okay? So, targeted population person, they simply, what they start to do is record, take note, observe, create the dates, the events, the times, and get as much descriptoral information as they can, so that when it is time, without giving these people too much street theater, without giving, falling into the baits and the traps to act out, because sometimes we like to toy with them and have some fun, but without, you know, giving them too much. That's so that way, if it's evaluated, whatever they're recording as they're taking pictures of us, recording us illegally, right? That they don't have nothing but you walking, minding your business, you seeming to be listening to your music, you in nature, meditating, right? Because they want to create this narrative that the targeted person is not mentally well. So once the world can accept that that is the goal, then maybe you all can open up to the actual tactics in which they use. Maybe you then can open up to the plausibility that, yes, people in businesses, people in these positions do utilize their access to stuff and their connections with people for that reason. And then as it pertains to like how it's connected to people's family or folks that they grew up with, well, now that I'm explaining all of that, that might help the world to understand that, oh, they have psychotic family that's in the mortgage industry that travels the US. They have psychotic family that's in cults that have stations throughout the US. But because most of you, a lot of you out there, you're just two-dimensional, not even three, flat, one or the other, no depth. And I'm not trying to say that arrogantly. I'm saying that because it requires deeper critical thinking. And to get like our heads out of the clouds and out of our asses thinking that people don't have it in them to go that far. Or that people won't abuse their positions because they don't like somebody. And that's a wake-up call for America. The assumption that you give somebody a job, you train them to be a supervisor, a manager, a director, and they do a good job for you. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, in terms of the job, at least so you think anyway. But to assume that their character and their personal issues will not be exploited in the position of power in which you've given them. That is an assumption, and that is a wake-up call that America is about to experience, especially the South. To assume that these people will not allow their personal biases, their personal prejudices, their personal friendships and connections, their personal dating lives, their personal financial issues, that they won't exploit what they have to take advantage of somebody if they can make some money off of it. It's an assumption to believe that everybody's moral compass is true north versus religion It's an assumption. Am I lying when I make that statement? It's an assumption. To think that, okay, this is a police officer, surely they wouldn't do anything wrong. Surely they won't mishandle and exploit situations for their own personal reasons. Surely they won't do that. Or this is a landlord, a manager, an assistant, a this and that. Surely they won't allow their personal surely everyone in positions of authority power would not be seeking to exploit nobody of disabilities. Surely they'll be honorable. That's an assumption. Surely they must be psychologically balanced because they managed to get a managerial position. They managed to get a supervisor's position. They managed to get a director's position. They managed to pass the bar exam. They managed to pass the exam to be a cop. They managed. It's an assumption. They're going to be balanced. Surely they're grounded. Surely they're going to be just and fair and integral and not operate with ill will and hidden dishonor and seek to scapegoat someone else. And until the world at masses accepts that this is why it's able to happen, and when you add in the added element when this is happening in Timbuktu, when this is happening in no man's land, where everybody knows everybody, everybody is friends with everybody, married to everybody, fucked everybody, got connections with everybody on some level. In these positions of authority and leadership. And they run a mouth. As my grandmother would have said, diarrhea of the mouth, gossips. They're violating OSHA, HIPAA, and every other thing you can think imaginable under the sun. But they look for a scapegoat to so-called pin down on some bullshit. Because they're trying to get this money, this deal. They're trying to get this here power of attorney, and they're trying to get their rocks and their vengeance because the target stands up for themselves, assert themselves, speak for themselves, and defend themselves and their children. So they want to punish that. On top of the target individual begins to thrive in spite of their shit ton of incessant ritual work, in spite of the shit ton of their 3-year-old noisemakers, in spite of their numerous attempts to poison their doorknobs and put shit in shit, in spite of the sabotage to try to affect their money so that they can't take care of themselves, so that they can hopefully be successful at so that infuriates them even further. So they're punishing the target for surviving in spite of it all. And they're also punishing the target for having the balls to speak about what's been being done. They work overtime to not only attempt to cover up the evidence and damage the control, but to try to hide the fact that they had an issue with the target, to try to hide the fact that they fucked who the target was with, to try to hide the fact that they are friends with the person who fucked the person that the target was with, to try to hide the fact that they are prejudiced, to try to hide the fact that they are, biased and religious based and have a tendency to mistreat or prejudge incorrectly those who don't have the same beliefs. They try to hide the fact that if the target is a social media content creator, that every last one of them has been watching them every single day. And this is how some of them came to have an issue, ranging from people getting in secret competition with them, or people not liking what they're on, or people just simply wanting to negatively impact because they see this person It's an assumption to think that people who have money won't steal. Okay? That's another assumption. To think that people who have money and resources won't steal. It's called greed, and it's called they're trying to take whatever they can away from that target so that their ultimate mission can be fulfilled. Their humiliation rituals and attempting to get them not here and get some kind of power of attorney and get them imprisoned and whatever other cockamamie shenanigans that they're up to. And they hide it via hiding behind the fact that they're a spiritual leader or a pastor, a deacon. They hide it with, I'm a businessman and that's how they do that. To try to hide the fact that they are targeting somebody. Yeah, I am a man of God. I'm a man of God. I'm a woman of God. Yeah, that's a cover. So that they can misdirect. It's the art of misdirection. So that they can misdirect people to look away from them and towards something else. Anything to upset the target, anything to infuriate them, anything, whatever they can do. They want their energy. They want the attention. Like 3-year-olds, even if it means negative. Because it's energy. And until the world can see that, even though some of these people are 1,000 years old, until the world can see that and understand that that's what's happening, they want energy. Even negative energy. Any energy from the target. This is why they want them to act out. This is why they want the street theater. This is why they want the target to come up to them and say something to them. And this is why. This is why they want to see the target upset and go, oh, they want all of that energy. They want energy. And it's very hard to not pay attention to a 3-year-old that is sitting in your face with their finger on you, like in your face, but not touching you. It takes a whole lot of restraint and practice to navigate around the tantruming old dusty niggas and bitches. It takes a minute, and we don't do this perfectly. But just to give a glimpse, a clip of the activity, because you hear people talking about their gang stalked and harassed and community. Okay, but just to, without feeding them too much, without giving them the street theater, they want us recording them and you know, going off on them, and we'll see what we will. So taking that from them in an intelligent manner, helping the world. To become educated on the actual tactics. Whether or not, world, that you are somebody who have been exposed to these types of things in arenas and or not, it does not mean they don't exist. That's step one. Step one. Okay. Step two, once you can understand that if something is being done on an organized, grander scale, that it's going to be professional. And by implication of the word, this means it's not going to be too sloppy or too easy to detect. It will fall under the category of things that are relatively normal and plausible. Okay? Furthermore, if you can open up to the possibilities that people's position in life doesn't mean they're exempt from being a lowlife. Okay, because they have properties, vehicles, homes, monies. It doesn't exempt them from being willing to do some foul shit for nefarious reasons. Okay? Once you can open up to that, once you can open up to the idea that old ladies, old niggas, like there are no discriminatories as it pertains to those who participate in that type of foul shit. Once you can accept that being a family member to somebody doesn't mean that they don't have it in them to do something insidious, once you can open yourself up to that, you might be on the map and on the road to breaking the case because you're opening yourself up to the possibilities beyond the typical, stereotypical scenarios that you're going to be looking for. Once you understand that people's blindness, biases, plays a major role, even our own, and if we're not careful, this is why sometimes it's in our face and we don't know it, because we're blinded by the association. This is my mother, this is my father, this is my sister, this is my brother, this is my homeboy, this is my homegirl, this is the pastor, this is the first lady. This, we're blinded by this person is a pillar of society. They're always given to charity. If you can't get past those things, I promise y'all, you are going to miss it. Okay? All right. So, I think it's getting real. I think not all of it. I don't think it's hit everything yet. I think it's chipping away. I think there's some parts that's being affected right now because somebody got some damn proof. There's some proof. There's some stuff. And it's going to be a problem And in this situation, if these people in this aspect, the ones that, the proofs is coming out, if they persist in trying to be tricky, it's only going to get worse for them. And the targeted population will end up getting an offer. And that offer is going to only further infuriate them. So it's like they're just about to make a shit ton of more mess for themselves in this particular area. Now, let's now close it up with this. Now, ask yourself, what is mental illness? And what are some of the behavioral traits or patterns or characteristics that you would actually qualify as possible mental illness? The next question is, ask yourself, what is the difference between a survivor of abuse that develops mental health niggles, such as PTSD, CPTSD, versus the individual who is criminally insane, that are doing the acts to create the mental health niggles in individuals? Who's crazier? I'm going to challenge the world to shake up what they even think they know about mental illness. Yes, I am. I'm going to challenge the world because if we're honest, we have people in society, we see it in the news, we see it in Hollywood, we see it everywhere. Yet when it comes to regular folks and Joe Schmoes in everyday life, we get amnesia. All of a sudden, we're dumb and ignorant. There are people all over the world in positions of power and authority that do not have a clinical diagnosis, but they are criminally insane. Closet sadist, a misogynist, masochist, closet sociopaths and psychopaths, triple, double, quadruple lives, a persona for everyday Joe Schmoes and those that, they're feeding off of. But they're a killer. They get insurance policies on the sick and elderly and disabled, and then sabotage them to be incapacitated so that they can get their check, and then when they die, so that they can get insurance, that payout. They take deals from people to look for folks or take certain people out where there's been some kind of inheritance or anything of that sort left to them, and they don't want to cough it up, and then they'll make deals with all of these various people. If you do this, we'll give you the piece of a pie. Okay, because we don't want to cough this here. So drive them crazy, do what you can so we can get them fucked up. Okay? And then when we're successful at getting them either sick, dead, imprisoned, or something, when we're able to do that, and then we get this power of attorney, and then we'll be free and in the clear, and we will give you a piece of it. And we won't ever have to worry about that old bugaboo targeted individual no more, because soon enough they'll die off after all of the torture and the mishandling and the abuse and the restrictions and being off in Timbuktu. Hell, chances are we may even have somebody go over there and do it And, you know, just to speed things up. Once you all can understand that there are beings, no matter their station in life, actually live like that. In some cases, that's how a lot of these people even are where they are. That's how they even have what they have. Some of these people, they got their cars and all this stuff because this is their career. They got a trail of blood on them. And you looking at them like they wonderful because they got an Escalade. Or a Beamer. Or a Benz in a house. You sitting there just... duh. Duh. No opposable thumbs. You looking dead in the eyes of a killer. Dead in the eyes of a fucking killer. Dead in the eyes of people who do sex rituals on disabled people to harness their energy. And you over there singing their praises. That don't give two flying fucks about the quality of life of these motherfuckers. In fact, they look at them as a nuisance and to be sacrificed because they feel like they'll make better use of the energy and the money. And you singing their praises because it's Deacon so-and-so. You singing their praises because you see the ignorance. The ignorance. We be all fanning on motherfuckers. Fanning like a motherfucker. And they crazy. They're criminally crazy because they're going out here creating crazy and innocent lives. And when there's a manifestation of their criminality, when there's a manifestation of their criminality, then they dumbass want to sit there. The target is a problem. The target is tripping, is weak, is crazy. That in and of itself proves they're criminally insane. What the fuck? The abuser abused their abusee and then convinced the world that the abusee is the problem. That's some crack cocaine, mental illness, all. Okay, so I gotta go, y'all. I'm about to go and cool off and get going. I walked around for a while, got away from my sunspot. And so, give me a second, catch some breath. I gotta go, I'm gonna cool off. Okay? Time to wake up. It's in front of your face, in plain sight. The Walking Dead, disguised as decent human beings, disguised as philanthropists, disguised as good, clean, and wholesome Christians, disguised as normal. Bye.